welcome to the 172nd session of Legal Empowerment through Interaction lecture series. We have a speaker who has been with us throughout, but never ever thought of doing a session altogether, in the sense like, Kondaram sir has been saying that I'll do it next time, and this is the time. And I would say, like, we are going to have an electrifying session today.
Oh,
Why, it's wonderful.
So, directly over to you, sir.
sir, at the outset, let me thank all of you to agreeing to bear with me. And I will start with a caveat. I keep seeing on papers, O and, what is it called? E and OE.
Errors and omissions accepted.
Yes. I will say not exempted, they are expected. Okay.
Yes.
I should also
just-
put a caveat.
just like your electricity going for shutdown, etc.
Without any notice.
It appears.
On short notice, they fail. Power fails.
Yeah.
Failure.
So that is expected of. After all, we are in a developing nation, not developing nation.
Yes.
So as I said, I promised to tell a story. I'll just quickly recap. There are actually if I understand, because I'm not a structured speaker, so you should pardon me. And I'm happy that today Prem is not there.
Prem is there, but don't do
Delhi,
that.
far away, far away. Far away in Delhi. Beyond
Beyond
the
to cross.
He may be remotely controlling you sometimes.
But actually, if we have to talk about power, we need to understand basically, one is, as of today, we all recognize the power is the most essential item in our life. We just can't imagine ourselves without power, even for few hours. But coming from myself and also some of the big brothers here, like Ramkumar sir, Ramkrishna sir, or KVJ Rao sir, and few others, I'm sure you would all recollect, prior to 1970, in all our villages, we have gone without power. We have gone with what we call, local language, what we used to call as buddhis, or with the small lanterns. I still remember my sister-in-law every evening cleaning the glass.
hurricane lamp.
Hurricane is a bigger one.
Yes.
The other one with the small wick.
Small
Every day
chimney.
Small one.
Yeah,
Yes.
every day you clear that lantern glass. In fact, I had that experience in 1972. It's only around 1972 I had, for the first time, I had seen the power. Occasionally I used to see, because I used to travel from my village to the nearest town, where my father was the constituency's MLA. But I was living in village almost about 6-7 years prior to that, because of the fact that my mother passed away early. So I was living with my grandmother in the village. So from that particular point of time to the present day, where you just cannot afford to think of without there being power, is a big transition. But for some of the youngsters, they do not even know what exactly is a lantern, or they would not never seen except in some small pictures here and there. That's the position. Now we need to visualize, and we go back to 1910 and prior to 1910. Prior to 1910, it was in a little unorganized sector. Legislative angle, a particular aspect, then Act came in 1910. It's an Electricity Act 1910. The title is not really relevant, but it's basically one act which was governing both generation, transmission, and distribution. generation being handled by a particular agency, and then there being a distribution licensees, mostly municipalities in different places. The generation was either it could be coal-fired or the oil-fired, and the very limited area. Over a period of time, from 1908 to by the time 1945, 1948, a new legislation has come in 1948, where electricity boards were created, different places. So 1908 Act became, 1910 Act became mostly for with respect to the generation, concentrating on the generation. 1948 Act governing the supply. From the once the boards came into existence, virtually the boards have taken over all the private organization or entities earlier. It's a kind of a acquisition. There were different acquisition acts wherein some compensation was paid and acquisition has been done, which was supposed to be that act. The objective of the act is coordinated development of the electricity sector per se. So thereafter boards were created, boards were given monopoly. That monopoly aspect, they were being managed, it's basically high capital intensive. And the distribution network is one of the major costs apart from the, today probably the creating a generating station is cheaper, but the distribution network, laying a distribution network is the expensive one. In those days, the area of operation was being given from time to time to different entities, then consolidated into a board. Board started doing it. Then what has happened? The sector, by and large, they were trying on a year-on basis, every state, depending on their finances. It is the, in fact, electricity sector or electricity laws are in the concurrent list. List 3, the entry 38. So the respective, though it's a central enactment, control is there with the respective state boards. State boards were exercising their power, and then slowly they started creating independent entities for the purpose of generation. And the boards being the, in certain of the states, boards were generators as well as the distributors. Over a period of time, necessity of the number of generating stations, that's a technical term which is used. They slowly started establishing generating stations. And then in those days, initially it was dependence more on the hydel. Yes, almost over a period of time, by the time it came to 1975 or 80s, at least in the state of Andhra Pradesh, it was 50% hydel and 50% thermal. Then over a period of time, the hydel generation has gone down, maybe because of the water flow or otherwise. The thermal generation had picked up, and then thermal stations were established because of the coal availability and also the need to exploit the coal resource. You know, there are the competing interests in these kind of things, because if the coal is to be, coal mines have to be developed, there is a dependency on the coal trade and also the employment and also the revenue. You know, these are all interconnected issues, though it do not appear to be we handle with respect to the power aspect as concerned. As we go along, a need was found. There was a constant shortage of power because the boards were not able to generate enough and supply enough. The needs were growing, and also there was ambitious the program of the respective state governments wanting to expand the distribution network and the supply to the creating the households, starting with the towns to the cities, cities to towns, towns to the villages, and then thereafter remote villages, and thereafter in the areas which are absolutely inaccessible. It's a highly capital intensive. In those days, just for example, maybe around 2005 and 4 or around, somewhere around 1990, the cost of generation or establishment of a particular power plant generating 1 megawatt of power, in those days it was about 2 crores. Today it goes to about 5 crores, roughly. I'm giving only ballpark figures, not exact the figures. So you can just imagine, if a 300 megawatt power plant has to be established, you need about 6,000 crores. It's a huge money for the state governments to raise. And those days, at least till 1980s, all the state governments were managing their finances without much borrowing from outside. There was a fiscal discipline in the respective state governments. They were wary of borrowing money, and they were also wary of levying taxes. That we all, in our generation, we had seen buses being broken, hartals being conducted, when 10 paise RTC charges are increased. 10 paise, not much. 15 paise increase in railway charges. There is a hue and cry. There used to be university hartals, dharnas, etc. For whatever reason, it could be political reason or it could be otherwise, as if the sky is going to fall. But nowadays, if you see the increase every day, petrol price, 1 rupee, 2 rupees, 4 rupees, nobody is bothered. Either the people's wealth has increased or they do not much care about the increase, or they realize that it is only a small part of the thing. But earlier, for whatever reason, it used to be like that. So the respective state governments or the boards were wary of increasing the tariffs. They were trying to manage within their this thing. Naturally, there is a deficit. What we have, we adjust within ourselves. But then, on the advent of, there is a lot of litigation prior to 1990. One of the biggest, the contribution of the state of Andhra Pradesh, contribution in the either way, positive or negative way, the state of Andhra Pradesh, state of Kerala, state of Orissa, and the state of Bihar, is with regard to the jurisprudence relating to Section 49 of the Electricity Act, Supply Act 1948, wherein the board has been, by the respective Supreme Court judgments, though the respective High Court sometimes have ruled in favor of the consumer, in the ultimate analysis, by the time they went to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court has ruled that the electricity boards under Section 49 have every and all kinds of powers. In fact, they have emboldened them to such an extent, I can say without much of a contradiction, that there's an element of arrogance which has been developed into the electricity boards, that we can do anything and everything. So they started spending monies in different ways. In the end, ultimately, it again comes back to the consumer. It has to be collected from the consumer. Then in a particular state, I think it's the state of Haryana, and the advent of elections, somebody thinks saying that I would like to give free power to the agriculturists. It's a very laudable object, and if I say a contra, I'm sure my communist friends will start pouncing on me, especially from the Kerala. But the fact remains, they said, okay, the free has to be given, and the free culture started with, I think it's Bhajanlal's, the then chief minister at that point of time, announcement. And thereafter quickly catch up. We are very fast in Andhra Pradesh in catching up with such things. So then it started off in Andhra Pradesh. The result in particularly Andhra Pradesh, I can say in 83, the first year in which the 50 rupees per horsepower, a consolidated figure irrespective of the consumption, 50 rupees per horsepower for agriculture sector resulted in roughly around 650 crores lost to the electricity board. And that particular loss of 650 crores continued for next 10 years till 1993. In between, one chief minister tried to wriggle out of that, but there was a political upheaval within the party, with the result they couldn't do anything. It's only 1990 till 1993. But the flip side of it is between 1983 and 1993, in the state of Andhra Pradesh, not a single megawatt of power generation was added to the grid. So the result is the shortages kept on increasing. But there's a public upheaval to supply the power and also satisfy the people. The free power which has been promised, as well as the supply to the domestic. Then they have devised a way, all right, let us start increasing power for the industrial sector. After all, they are the ones who can pay. So what is it started off, you increase there, it's, in English they use that word, rob the Paul to pay the Peter or something like that, whatever is that proverb. But basically, it's a kind of trying to, we charge more there and we charge less here. But over a period of time, what has happened is, ultimately, if there is a power generation and supply is being made, then in which event, even if you charge more also, probably to the extent of the possibility of their bearing capacity, they will bear and continue to pay. But if there is no supply, but at the same time price is being increased, a situation had developed between 1980 to 1990. I'm giving one example of state of AP, and this is the virtually repeated in almost every state. Because we were pioneers, every other state started aping that same, it's a technology, following the technology in the sense, the methodology. The paying consumer is visited with the power cuts up to 87-90%. And non-paying consumer is being supplied with the power. With the result, board was losing every year a huge money of 600-700 crores. That was challenged before the courts. Successive judges sitting in the high courts upheld, saying that after all, agriculture is, why should it not be given? After all, this is the thing. They have justified it in different words. It's basically, it's not with regard to by way of interpretation of any provisions as such. It's just philosophies, different philosophies for giving justification, because the challenge was based on Article 14. My senior always used to say Article 14 is a wild horse. It's all in the imagination of the person and the imagination and the articulation of the person who is writing the judgment. There's no set formula in Article 14. Because if there is a provision, after all, a provision reads 5 sentences, 6 sentences, it can be interpreted in one way or other. There's nothing to expand in the provision except other than reading it as it is, whatever it is there, literal interpretation. There's nothing to interpret. But what it has given the power, to what extent it has been given, expanded meanings were given, and in the result, every successive challenge by the consumers, initially by the power consumers associations, ended up in losing their cases. And in the Supreme Court, it is only upholding in different words again. This went on. Each time a board has succeeded before the courts, they were more emboldened. The more charges came, different names. In the end, today, ultimately, for every small service that is being provided by the boards, a consumer is being charged in the name of some charge or other. For example, something called service line charge, something called voltage surcharge, something called the development charge. If you ask question yourself, that is only as ultimately electricity was also held to be goods. If electricity is a goods and a goods supplier is required to manage his affairs in such a way and ultimately sell at a fixed cost or a particular cost, what the market can take. Because you have no choice other than to go to the electricity board, they had that field day. But at the same time, the deficiency had gone to such an extent where boards have become incapacitated themselves to be able to supply. And also on account of the liberalization which was adopted by the India sometime in 1992, 1990s, at the, what we call liberalized area of just our former Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. A decision was taken, and for the first time, amendments were brought in the 1948 Act and 1910 Act to enable the private generators also to generate power. So the private generation, how do you invite private generation? You need to incentivize and you need to entice people to come and invest that kind of money. Then they thought at that point of time, the policymakers thought that we create a assured return of 16% on the capital invested. What they call it as the formula is cost plus basis. Whatever may be the cost you incur, we give you 16% return on your investment or something like that. A cost plus formula was adopted. First company which came to India was the American company, what is called as Enron. It's also known as the Bowl project. So the Bowl project came, they established. Then some public spirited person, in the meanwhile, Maharashtra came out with a regulatory commission. These are all, if you see, between 1990, 91 onwards, there's something called, Big Five. You all must have heard the Big Five consultants. The worldwide, they were the ones who were giving the guidance to everyone and how to conduct your governments and how to run your governments, how to run your organizations. The Big Five, they entered into a different way. For the first time in Orissa, they came out with something called Orissa Reform Act in the power sector. But prior to that, the first one was the Maharashtra, that the whole Enron case. In Enron, the cost plus came. Then some public spirited person went and filed a writ petition saying that the country is going to lose this much, blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, the Maharashtra Regulatory Commission came and they decided, no, you can only charge this much, not this much, not this much. Finally, it ended up in such a way that Enron, in the meanwhile, simultaneously, there was a debacle in the Enron in America because of the failure of the Arthur Andersen, their auditors, some certification issues, and ultimately, the fact remains the American Enron collapsed. Indian Dabur also collapsed. The challenge was made in Bombay High Court, which went in favor of the state. Then matter went to before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court was pending. That's a different story. I will tell you what comes out of because we are all part of the judiciary. Sometimes the judgments, how it results and how it also damages the larger things, how we lose sight of as judges in viewing, not able to visualize in the future what can happen. But there's a first project was the cost plus formula. That was the only plant which was given cost plus formula. And there was yet another in the state of AP, the GVK plant, which came, gas-based power plant. They were also given that cost plus thing. But then next stage came, they realized that is cost plus means cost can be escalated to any extent, and 16% ROE will result in the huge price to be paid by the consumer. Because ultimately the only purchaser was the respective boards. There is no private distribution framework created at that point of time, except that the amendments were made to the Act to allow the private generators to come into play. In 1995, they came out with another policy instead of cost plus, they said levelized tariff. The levelized tariff basis is that you quote the price at which you would like to supply. Competitive bidding basis. If the price is acceptable to us, you may incur whatever may be the cost. I will pay you this much of the fixed cost and this much of the variable cost. Fixed cost is to meet the fixed cost expenditure. Variable cost is because if it is the thermal, the price of the coal or the price of the fuel keeps varying. So to meet that, the variable cost. So second formula level, it came again. Few of the players stepped in. You should remember that by that time, again establishment of a power plant, the cost has gone from what was earlier probably 1 crore or 50 lakhs to 2 crores, 2 crores to 3 crores, by which time maybe little more extra. But still, the number of people came forward. In the meanwhile, in the policy decisions, they also started encouraging what is called as non-conventional energy. In fact, Kerala was one of the first one to encourage that. The biomass-based projects, 1 or 2 small plants. There are again entrepreneurs are from Andhra Pradesh. Here also a few, but they are all very interestingly, they were all only 1 megawatt and 2 megawatts. The grid was taking those power, and then simultaneously in Andhra Pradesh, small hydel projects have come up. Likewise in Karnataka, wherever there is a water facility, it could be on small canals or it could be some small streams. They have created little bit of fall. Water has to be taken to the little height and then thereafter allow it to fall onto the turbines to churn and then generate electricity. But the small hydel projects, the non-conventional biomass projects, the fossil fuel, and also the companies which were the solvent extraction plants who were manufacturing, they simultaneously they started, and then they were that buyback arrangement was made by the thing. That's how the whole private generation has started coming. But again, their respective, in the meanwhile, after Orissa, in the Orissa Reform Act, somewhere in 1996, it was first time it was enacted. The whole act was drafted at that point of time, if I'm not wrong, and subject to correction and without meaning any disrespect to any of the organization. This caveat is required because tomorrow somebody will quote me saying, oh, you spoke against that particular organization. It was a chartered accountant firms who were consultants who prepared the entire of the act in that particular fashion, and they came out with the Reform Act, and in the Reform Act there is a regulatory commission which was created. Now, instead of the important aspect of the Reform Act is that the monopoly which was existing in the board was completely slowly taken away and it was put in the regulator. With the fond hope, regulator will look into various aspects of the sectoral development rather than the only health of the board. Because the board was always concerned about themselves and their finances, and every year salaries increase, board employees salaries increases, various things increases. So naturally various things, the expenses keep getting added up. So naturally the prices will start increasing. So they need to have a regulatory sector and also encourage private generation in tune with that. But there was a lot of indirect resistance from the boards because they were started losing their monopoly. But the Orissa Reform Act was not really taken off. Then next came Andhra Pradesh, our former Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu, who has the penchant for wanting to be the pioneer in every thing which he does. Because of the experience in the Orissa Reform Act, central government came out with a Regulatory Commissions Act in 1998. Simultaneously, our state came out with the AP State Regulatory Commissions Act. There were two parallel, almost with the identical thing, but there are Central Act and State Act. Central Act was more comprehensive, State Act was this thing. Then there was a tussle in the legal forums with regard to which one will prevail, which was in operation, which is not in operation. That ended up in huge litigation. Again, all this litigation, they cost the board, because that cost again gets added up to your operational cost, and ultimately it results in the cost being charged for power. This I am telling for the reason, for the young lawyers who are there here, to say that there is a huge potential for you people if you know and if you dive into this without getting afraid into the electricity sector of getting shocked. There's a huge opportunity for you to get and then enrich yourself. Either if you are appearing for the board, or you are appearing for the consumer, or you are appearing for the generator. In fact, I am one of those beneficiaries of that particular sector, to be honest. Over a period of time, in fact, that to such an extent that I've been called as a current Kodandam.
Yes, we got a name now.
Yeah, as we go along, the Orissa Reform Act or Orissa Reform experiment had not given some result, but at the same time it provided the insights into the sectoral this thing. And then 1998 Act came. Because of the challenges made by the various the so-called public interest groups and also the engineered positions, you know, we have a penchant for challenging everything which is new, without looking into consequences, whether it's going to benefit or not. We like, because after all, it's a freedom country, no? That's how it happened. Like the challenges ended up in then in the end, ultimately, finally, because of this, the Enron experience, and also the simultaneously what is happening in the country and the growth and the demand which was there, overall demand, finally the 2003 Act came. This 2003 Act is nothing but it's a consolidation of all the acts put together. But you know, we have in India one peculiar problem with regard to this particular sector or any sector. Our people are extremely good in making good laws. They enact laws, but thereafter they don't frame rules. They don't frame guidelines. They don't frame operational required things. They just, for example, 2003 Act says that there has to be a national electricity policy. Act mandates. Then it took 2 years for them to announce a kind of policy in 2005. It took another 10 years for them to really bring out a comprehensive policy in 2015. So you can just imagine what happens. And then every time something comes, then by the time it goes to the High Court to the division bench to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court decides. What has happened earlier is gone, but at the same time we have so much precedent ridden. We keep following what has been decided earlier without regard to or without visualizing what is likely impact. As I said, if it is an interpretation of the provisions, there's no problem. If it is the philosophies which gets into the judgments, the whole problem comes. This is the overall picture where we stand with regard to 2003 Act. And then over the period, as the experience we have gained, there are a lot of things which in between happened. As I said, what was non-conventional energy of 1 megawatt and 2 megawatts, what was started, and the tariff which was being paid for non-conventional energy was being initially at 8 rupees, 10 rupees per unit. Today, at one point of time, solar energy was being, Government of India, as well as the states, 14 rupees per unit was being paid. Just to encourage, it's incentivizing the thing, and also considering the cost of establishing a solar energy panels or whatever the equipment that is required. But today, in an open bidding, the quotes are coming for 2 rupees 48 paise. whereas the thermal energy costs about 3 rupees 50 paise or 3 rupees 80 paise per generation. Of course, consumer gets charged up to 8 rupees, 9 rupees also. They have, they have used this regulatory commission's methodology to charge on the consumer. Like if your consumption is only 100 units, 50 units, they have this funny way of classification. And if you consume 50 units, you are free. Above 50 units to 100 units, you are charged at 3 rupees. Then if you consume instead of 100 units, 102 units, you are jumped into the different slab, you are charged 4 rupees. You consume another 100 units extra, you are taken into the next slab of 5 rupees. Likewise, all old people and at home and all, Kerala and all, or anywhere, you switch on the AC or you switch on your computer, your meter runs to a particular thing. So in the end, ultimately, we all end up paying about 6 rupees or 7 rupees. And then there is also a pilferage element which is there. And there is also an element of transmission and distribution loss. Transmission and distribution loss in India goes up to 23 to 24%, whereas in all other countries it is up to between 5 to 6%. And this transmission and distribution loss, which they say is the transmission and distribution loss, is really not a transmission and distribution loss, but at the same time a part of inefficiency of the system and management of the system. But these are all, basically we are all in the process of learning curve. Then when we go into the specifics, definitely we have made great progress in the sector. And there is an element of the 2003 Act. This interesting thing in 2003 Act is that the Act is intended to develop they call it as, the definition of the very interesting definition, which says, that's only the thing which I will cite, because as I said, I'm not getting into the nitty-gritties. It talks about development of the power system. The power system takes into generating stations, transmission or main transmission lines, substations, tie lines, load dispatch activities, mains or distribution lines, electric supply lines, overhead lines, service lines, works, etc. Then electricity system means a system under control of generating company or license, as the case may be, so and so. It's a very elaborate act because it is a consolidation of the 1910 Act, 1948 Act, 1998 Reform Act, and now much more amendments have been come. In the end, ultimately, effort which was made by the legislature is that the freebie culture has to be curtailed. The reason is this: the Electricity Board, we all should understand, while we all have the great desire that public be given something at a cheaper cost and cheaper thing or the affordable price, and also different sectors of people, sections of people be serviced. The electricity is a goods. It has some cost to produce, it has a cost to distribute, it has a cost in servicing that sector. Now, electricity boards are only one small wing of the government or a small department. So suppose if that department is the one which is required to bear entire of the cost to serve the objective of the state or the leaders. When I say the state, it is not really the state. Objective of the state is to create a wholesome society of the facilities which will be useful for every citizen not the sector, one sector, either you call it as agriculture, or you call industrial, or you call it a coolie, or you call a vapor, or whoever it is. In the end, ultimately different levels of this one. It is not meant for that. The basically common good. Just imagine in a family, a joint family, the eldest son's children have to be sent to America, and all other children, that cost will have to be borne by the entire, if it is entire of the joint family, probably as a unit, they may be able to service and have one after the other. But if the entire of the cost has to be borne for the entire of the family by the eldest son merely because he happens to be the karta, what will be the position? Now here, in a similar way, electricity board, cross-subsidization, that's the word which they use it as. Cross-subsidization, or the subsidizing the needy, has to be done by one particular sector or two particular sectors. Now it is the board. What the government objectives cannot be achieved through board, because so far as the board or the electricity organization is concerned, it has to have the commercial principles in mind in running it. Unfortunately, the provisions of Electricity Act, or the earlier act, or now the present act, do not provide for such kind of things. But now statutorily the legislature sought to impose that the cross subsidization cannot be more than 20%, and it has to be gradually brought down to 6% in the end, so that the flip side of it, the giving of the free power, or the flip side of the loading one particular sector, normally it is the industrial or the business sector, is that what happens is you may be able to collect from that particular sector, but their cost of production goes up. And once their cost of production goes up, they will not be able to sell their goods in the market at a competitive rate. Once they are not able to sell their products in a competitive rate, the GST collections, or what we call it as the GST today, earlier what we were charging as either excise duty or sales tax, those revenues again come down. Actually, it was it's a highly complex situation, but unfortunately, the administrators were not thinking in a comprehensive manner. So far as the political leader is concerned, he just goes and he takes the mic and he says, I will give you free. At that particular point of time, when he is making an announcement, that's exactly what has happened in Haryana in Bhajan Lal's time. Thereafter, our great the doyen of film industry and much adorned N.T. Ramarao did. When he came out and said, Raitu Sodaranaku 50 rupayilo free power and 2 rupees per kg rice. And then thereafter that increased it to 25 kgs per rice, so and so, so and so, so and so, so and so. These are all highly complex, interrelated and interconnected. So today, the overall, if you look at from the central government, they have gone to the extent of imposing and telling the states, no, you cannot, because none of the state boards or distribution companies, they divided into different distribution companies in the state. Earlier boards were there. They have gone into different distribution companies, region-wise, depending on the state. Like in Andhra Pradesh, there are 4 regions: north, south, west, and east. That way they put it. In Tamil Nadu, they have only 2 companies: generating company and transmission and distribution company. They have separated, segregated, because principles of generating company are different. Principles of the distribution companies are different. Principles of transmission companies are different. If you look at all these reforms, why did all these reforms idea came? In fact, in 1935 or so, somewhere around that time, in US, there was an act called PURA, Public Utilities Regulatory Act or something like that. So that Public Utilities Regulatory Act stepped in, they were made for the benefit of the public, not for the benefit of the institutions, but at the same time, they have also gone overboard. in the process, suppose what happens is, if you at the threshold, if you kill the capital coming inside, the result would be that the capital doesn't come. If the capital doesn't come, that you get deprived of the facility which you are aiming for. So now between 2003 to 2018, 19, 20, the number of reforms are being brought in, and they are virtually trying to force, because it's a central legislation. And unfortunately, there's another problem in this federal structure. The states resist because the states, they lose control. And this is one of the things which they have. In the process, it takes more time. And when it comes to the, there are a lot of statistics available with me, but they're all in the public domain. How much and what kind of the power which we have. As I said, for establishing a generating station, we need about today probably about 4 to 6 crores. The silver lining is that India is advancing enormously in solar as well as in renewable power. And probably I think we are the third, we stand in the third place as of today. I just give, because morning I just sat and put some questions to myself, like, that's what was the average consumption of a citizen in the electricity. It's something like roughly around 90 units per month is the average consumption. And it has gone up to 1100 to 1300, whereas in other countries it is about double the same. Likewise, the average consumption of industrial and agriculture sector, that's about 24 and 18%. The domestic is 11% to 16% electricity, this one. Then the one interesting thing which has happened is the cost of generation has come down over years. It could be for two reasons. Either on account of the competition which has been created in the sector, the plants, the private generators have stepped in. Earlier, these aspects were really not known in the public domain. Though boards were presenting some budget to the assembly, who is looking into the budget and who is making the cost analysis? Nobody makes. So the year on year, they present something. Even today, that's what exactly happens. But today, because of the regulatory commissions and also there is a public spirited organizations and also cost accountants, there are a number of organizations who go and object. And some of the politicians also, in the sense, public spirited politicians, they do a little bit of homework and they go and oppose before the Electricity Regulatory Commission, and they try to bring in, but still, as on today, still the regulatory commissions more lean in favor of the DISCOMs or the generating people. But the average cost works out to roughly, the production cost works out to around 3 rupees 40 paise to 3 rupees 50 paise, and one of the lowest in the world. Maybe one reason why lowest in the world is that we have not much regard for the environmental issues and the cost of compliance with respect to environmental issues, because in the European countries, European countries and other countries, they are very strict with regard to the environmental issues. So much so, all the nuclear power plants are being closed in Europe, and especially after that Japan's accident, the Chernobyl, I think that's, if I remember right. In most of the countries, they are being closed, and the thermal plants are being discouraged. They're trying to find alternative sources, and especially in Europe, there's a lot of encouragement for the solar and wind energy. In fact, we have evolved from them only, so far as solar and wind is concerned. In our country as of today, the hydel capacity, what was earlier about 50-50, has come down to something like 25 to 30. In fact, that was one of the cheapest source of power. But the upgradation and also the investments which are needed from time to time, either not happening or for whatever constraints of the finances. That's another again thing. But private entities are not into that large scale hydel. The private entities who are being allowed are only 5 megawatts and 6 megawatts or 10 megawatts max. Whereas you take, for instance, any of our idle plants in any of the states, they go into maybe 100, 200 or 300, 500 because they are on big dams. And the access to them is only the state entities. We have a target in India with respect to the renewable energy. It appears that we have a target of achieving 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022 and 450 gigawatts of by 2030. And we are really taking a extraordinary speed with which we are going, mainly on account of the fact that government is allowing them the free access. Because the one important aspect which we need to keep in mind is that payback period for any power plant is around, minimum is at about 12 years. But if they are able to put that kind of cost, the return may go up to 30 years. So here the question comes, the political theories again. Why should we allow them to benefit? After all, nobody, we can't expect anybody to come and be charitable to the India or either entrepreneur or from India or from abroad. Basically, somebody has to invest. Only when they invest or somebody creates the facility, we have the benefits. It's basically the way we look at it. We are still confused country with respect to the theories. Whether I really today, I don't understand we are in a capitalistic world or in a socialistic world or in a communistic world. The way we look at, we keep getting confused, and the leaders keep getting confused, and they confuse the public. They create certain element of expectation in the public, and they are also afraid if you don't give this thing, we don't get come back into power. If we don't come back into the power, what will happen to our this thing? And also, my son has to be leader, my daughter-in-law has to be leader, my son-in-law has to be leader. The next generation. So these, those are all larger issues of political, because only to, we all enjoy the that aspect of the matter. I'm just mentioning it. Nothing to particular about anybody. As I said, the losses which were earlier, sometime in 2002, around 2000 was 34%. Today they have come down to 21%. But still we have a long way to go. The transmission and distribution losses have to be reduced to something like 6%. That is the world efficiency. And as on today, what government claims is that we have reached almost about 90% electrification of the country. The question is sustainability as we go along. And then there's a balancing view which is required to be taken. The one aspect which would interest lawyers and which would interest the community is that I'll give one small concrete example. Just before my elevation, I had to go and argue on matter in Orissa. It's a 6,000 megawatt plant. And in the public interest litigation, there was a claim that some 3 acres of forest land or 3 or 10 acres of forest land was involved in the establishment of the plant. So there is a violation of the forest laws. Then the Chief Justice, who was a public interest oriented man, put a stay. And the stay continued for 2.5 years, with the result that 6,000 megawatt power plant has not taken off even today. The money invested by the Power Finance Corporation, Power Transmission Corporation, and the banks, on average pricing of after the equity of the promoter, say around at the rate of 2 or 3 crores, has completely gone down the drain. It's just on one act of somebody thinking forest land and unfortunately this thing at that point of time, the matter was not being taken up. Any number of efforts being made by respective all senior councils from Delhi, that all kinds of things. But the fact of the matter is, one public interest litigation, how it has the thing. And now I got the figure with respect to countrywide, what is the amount of which is stuck in these kind of things. Maybe not exactly litigation, but something or other on account of various factors, is something like 5,61,600 crores. And the total capacity which is stuck in various stages in the country is about 66 gigawatts. You can just imagine the kind of money which is going. In fact, one instance where I had to appear in one of the matters before the Kerala Electricity Regulatory Commission was a plant, a small, I think it was about 8 or 10 megawatt plant. Even I think, I don't know, even as on today, Kerala has a surplus power or it is a deficit. And to my remembrance, it was a deficit.
Thoroughly powerless.
Huh?
Thoroughly powerless.
They are depending on the national grids mostly.
No, today there's one important development which has happened is that there is a power exchange which has been created, that you can buy spot power. And then fortunately, because of the investments made, there is interconnectivity which has been made between the south and north. And in the north, especially some of the northeastern countries, states, they all have power surplus. In fact, Arunachal Pradesh and Himachal Pradesh, they survive to a large extent on selling the surplus power, which is generated by private entrepreneurs who had established the power plants. The understanding is that they will give a part of the power generated by them free of cost to the state. And the state, after utilizing for their needs, they sell it in the power exchange or in the long term or short term, under power purchase agreements. The litigation which has been created in this field is so enormous. Of course, even today and even on that particular point of time, in the understanding or lack of understanding, and also the way the courts have interpreted, as I said, of course, I was open and vocal in making that submission everywhere, that you lack vision. The simple reason is, see, there is an agreement. The parties have sat together and they made an agreement, elaborate agreement running into 500, 800,000 pages. And they have created a dispute resolution mechanism. Now, all of a sudden, because Electricity Act has come, and that the agreement says parties shall resolve their disputes with an arbitration, and they have 3 different mechanisms, and that should be ignored, and you go before the Electricity Regulatory Commission. And the Electricity Regulatory Commission is not only required to their functions are not only with respect to dispute resolution. They are supposed to be alternative and alter ego of the electricity boards, who are required to be have the vision to plan entire of the sectoral requirement of the state. In other words, they are the policy makers. Unfortunately, the regulatory commission's chairmen get appointed retired IAS officers, and they think so much so in some of the people, they thought in some of the states, they have put up the criminal court trial. You have that wooden platform where accused comes and stands. What is it called?
Dock.
Witness dock.
Accused dock.
Yeah, that was also created in the some of the electricity thing, and some of the electricity commission's regulators insist that advocate should wear gown, advocate should wear the bands, gown, and argue before them. They are only tribunals. And then they were spending more time in a week. 5-day sittings were being conducted with regard to the deciding, and the tariff fixation was also being decided as if it is a case. On one account, in our state, has happened because one of the provisions under the Regulatory Commissions Act says that the commissioner chairman shall be paid salary equivalent to that of the Chief Justice. So he thought he is the Chief Justice. So believe me, this is what has happened. He is very close to me. I went and told him, "Uncle, what are you talking?" He's a retired IAS officer. And he kept on telling everywhere that I am equivalent to Chief Justice. And the sector, the way it has happened in the state of Andhra Pradesh was the original pioneer. Another interesting facet of this development which has happened is that Regulatory Commission was passing orders. The previous order is the precedent for the next order. And that order is the precedent for the next order. Whereas they are deciding individual cases. And these orders were being followed by other state electricity regulatory commissions. Till a particular point of time, almost about 5 to 6 years, chaos was created. Thereafter, the appellate tribunal was constituted. Today, the appellate tribunal is not able to decide the total cases, number of cases which are pending before them. It has become another parallel court. And then, interestingly, appeal is provided from appellate tribunal to the Supreme Court directly. Though they say it's a question of law, every matter is entertained and then it goes and gets stuck. 2000 a matter which was decided in our API court by division bench in 2000, Justice B.S.S. Swamy, who is no more, later, got disposed of only in 2019 by Justice Arun Mishra just before retirement. And believe me, the understanding of the sector or appreciation of the sector or these issues, because these require, say, an enormous amount of insights into the overall thing rather than because consequences are fatal, and by the time you repair, generation gone. Today, as I said, that Enron thing which I said I'll save it for the last. So what has happened is, technically government succeeded in winning the case in India. Thereafter, they were dragged to international forum in America in arbitration. Government of India was forced to go and pay the money because they had no choice. The adherence to the contract was implemented. Enron, notwithstanding it was in liquidation, liquidators enforced it, and Government of India calmly went and surrendered themselves and paid. Otherwise, what would have happened is a disastrous consequences of billions of dollars not coming into the country. Sometimes our judicial enthusiasm in trying to protect penny cause
Anyways, pound foolish.
Pound foolish. This is exactly what has happened. Of course, in the Supreme Court, because I looked for again, what has happened, I was investigating into that. And I realized that in Supreme Court, they just calmly closed the case. And likewise, I know other day, our senior advocate Raghavan was sharing. There are 98 cases, arbitration cases pending on the nation to nation, under convention agreements. Because what we judges or what we regulators we look at it in a very narrow way, rather than looking at the larger picture. When policymakers are there, they make this thing. This is like recent amendments which have been brought in, virtually trying to force the respective state governments to ensure adherence to the fiscal discipline which the central is trying to create. And none of the state governments would like to fall in line because still they think that the sector is with us, because the respective states are the thing, they don't want to lose control over it. Of course, that's as I said, with all O and what I said, E and OE. With that caveat, I have making that submission. Tomorrow it will be quoted that so and so has said that. When this kind of matter comes now, I will excuse myself because having expressed an opinion, I reserve my right to go and argue my cases after retirement, which is pending from August onwards. These are the very large issues. Then when it comes to going into the nitty-gritties are concerned, as I said, this is only if I am able to kindle that much of interest in you. My objective of accepting today with the introduction is the threefold. One is meant for the wise people and the people who really mean good for the society, to make them to think on various aspects about which we instantly react by reading a newspaper, by reading something, or an opinion expressed by XYZ. That's one sector of people. But we can be thought leaders because we have experience, we have the insights to look into these kind of aspects and guide the society, express ourselves. That is for one segment of the people. Second segment of the people is the young lawyers to be the possibility of mastering this particular aspect of it and then making their career in that particular specialized subject and sector. It could be, you could be for the state, or you could be for the consumer group, or you could be for the generator. You could be for, there are so many in the power sector, though we call it as a current. In the end, if you look at, there is a generation, there is a distribution, then there is a supply. The supply and distribution are again two different things. Supply is to the consumer. Distribution is with respect to the distributing from the generating station. Generation is at the generation station. Then even within this, there are concepts called area of supply. And in the end, ultimately, we are now going back to 1930s because the government is permitting in each cluster to be serviced by an individual player. I can visualize a stage where the Cochin town can be serviced by only by one particular thing. Now it's happening, Bombay, Delhi. Likewise, different segments. Even within Bombay, there are two. One part being done by somebody, another part being done by another person. And then to come out, they also come out with, just like in Africa. Africa, nobody pays the powers, this thing. That's why they said, you don't supply. You have to buy prepaid meters. The prepaid meter is that you pay in advance, just like our telephone, we have these prepaid cards. Same way, the prepaid cards will be given. You will consume only that much of power, which is the thing. Namaskar, Vanakkam, sir. This is Rajendran is sitting there.
Welcome, sir.
Rajendra sir is yeah.
Yes. I could not get the internet connection little bit later.
No. Doesn't matter. You would have got electrified unnecessarily.
That's all connectivity and power, sir.
Rajendra, I was mentioning about your name for taking a class for this platform.
Anytime, it's a pleasure, sir. It's a pleasure, sir.
Okay.
That's the beauty of the brother Rajendran. See, he is a rare person because that's why he is heading the RERA.
That is why rare.
It's not rare, it's only rara.
As I was saying, it's meant for three categories of people. One is with respect to the people who are thought leaders. Today, society seems to be lacking those thought leaders. You know, I always call most of the judgments are we judges. We have the sheep mentality. I'm sure that I hope not. I'll not be hauled up for contempt by my big brothers. You know, because if you look at most of the judgments, so and so said so and so, they quote and conclude in the end. And if it is an interpretation, there's hardly anything to write so much. Because a precedent is an interpretation of law or a provision, not the philosophy of Justice Krishna Iyer or the Justice D.A. Desai or Justice P.A. Chaudhary or Justice Kodandaram or Justice Chinnappa Reddy. If you look at the judgments in the power sector, in one particular point of time, how the sector became caught up in that particular isms, and then which resulted in creating a monopoly, and which monopoly crumbled itself under its own weight, the monopoly called electricity boards. Who gave them the power? It is the judgments. Go back to the judgments and read each of the judgments, you'll realize what exactly the aspect which they went there. Maybe because, you know, at that point of time, they're all very great judges. You cannot find, you know, but at the same time, the vision with which they are required to look into was not there. A very interesting thing in one of the power matters where we argued that this free power cannot be given and that is ruining the whole thing. And we cited a 1948 judgment of House of Lords before the division bench. That's called the London Borough Municipal Corporation case, where just before elections, one of the parties had promised that in case we come to power, we will give free transportation facility and we will give all these things in the London Borough. That was those days, bus service was being run by the municipality. You know, even in India, at one point of time, local bus service was being run by the municipality. I remember still in Calcutta, I traveled in tram and best in Bombay and few other places. Then House of Lords said, excellent, right idea. It's very good. You need to give free for all old people, aged people, etc. But that act of giving free power is ultra vires the powers of the municipality, because municipality is not there for the purpose of giving free transportation. Municipality is there only to give service. It is the function of the state to find a way to give that subsidy. Now, under the 2003 Act, government, the state legislature was forced to come out with a provision making it mandatory for the state governments to deposit that money which they would like to give as a subsidy prior to tariff fixation. Unfortunately, most of the states, they follow this in breach. So again, it results in the same old system. In that context only, again, the central legislation, again, they have now come out with the 2018 rules, 2014, you know, because of the political situation and the federal structure, and this being in a concurrent list. So some of the states, none of the, again, the beauty of this is none of the states have gone ahead asking bringing in the state amendments. After all, it is in concurrent list. Maybe it's a central act. They can bring in the state amendment under 245, but they don't do. But they keep resisting implementation of the same. With the result, what happens is that in the process, ultimate loser is the public at large. It's not the question of this one, because you are failing to create an efficient system. And that's where the thought leaders and also the people with who matters for that purpose. And then, as I said, the youngsters who are at the last stage, different. For lawyers, it's a paradise. And I'll assure you, at least next 10 years or 15 years, there's a wonderful opportunity in the sector. And you don't need to do any other branch except this particular branch. I know there are law firms in the country who focus only on this particular segment and nothing else. Because I remember 1994, I was party to making an agreement for one of the power plant here. And then I had to go and sit in the Bombay few weeks for finalizing the power purchase agreement. That was the second in the country. The agreement runs into 400-500 pages. And now here there are so many financing documents which are required to be vetted by the finance corporation. Then there are a number of other regulatory affairs if they want to go for a public issue. And they need to understand the sectoral thing. Then when it comes to the renewable energy, buying panels to import the import of the panels for solar generation and wind farms, what was they started as 0.75 megawatts
Windmill.
Yeah, today they have gone into higher capacities with the higher heights. Originally it started only 0.5. And interestingly, some of our advocate friends, to avail the 100% depreciation in the first year, have purchased those windmills also. Because in the first year, you can write off entire of the investment. Incentives were given by the government and for the taxation purpose. I know some of the advocates who had done it. So this is the thing, sir, that I leave it at this. And thank you for having the patience to listen to me. And more nitty-gritties, as I said, this is only an introduction. And as we go along, probably if you give me an opportunity, maybe act-wise I will analyze and case-wise I will analyze. And maybe some of the criticism about the judgments may be well taken or not well taken, but doesn't much matter. Because after all, I am expressing and I am entitled to express. I also, notwithstanding that I am a sitting judge, I have the freedom of speech. And I'm also
absolutely. And if freedom of speech or expression, nobody else could have expressed better. That's just wonderful. Somayajalu sir has just sent a message that he had to leave immediately. I mean, he is engaged otherwise. And so, let us go straight to Justice Ramkumar sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be happy to answer one or two questions also.
That definitely will follow, sir. That definitely will follow.
Yes. It was a holistic and down-to-earth articulation by Sri Karand Kodandam.
Challa got to current. Okay, fine.
It was electrifying and power-packed. While the consumers were and are being fleeced under one ground or the other, some power ministers have found gold mines in the illicit sale of electricity.
Yeah.
Theft of power is also a constant headache for the electricity boards. Now, talking of electricity, I am reminded of a habeas corpus petition once moved by late T.R. Govinda Warrior who was a senior advocate par excellence in the state of Kerala, in the Kerala High Court. He put it in very subtle and brief words. See, the facts were an electrician was engaged for wiring a newly constructed small house where the only residents were a mother and daughter. What finally happened to us, after the wiring was over, the electrician eloped with the daughter. And TRG Warrior moved a habeas corpus petition. He mentioned only this: my lords, the second respondent was engaged for electrifying the house. In that process, he electrified the daughter, and mother got the shock. The mother is before your lordship. That is my experience of electricity. Beautifully worded submissions. Now in Bombay, I have found that Tata Electric is the generator, is it not?
Yeah.
In the Bombay, and BST is doing yeoman service, wonderful service, not only in public transport but also power distribution. Very good. I wonder why not other states also take the lead, like public transport and power generation, like BEST in Bombay. I don't know why. Very, very holistic articulation. You have studied the ins and outs of the mechanics of power generation and distribution, and also the politics behind. Wonderful, wonderful lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Ramkumar, sir. Over to you, Justice Ramakrishnan, sir.
Really, it's because without touching the law, we have projected the difficulties and the policy decisions being overturned, indirectly saying that the courts are also in a way responsible for it. You are succeeding in putting in that. See, the whole difficulty is arise because I am sitting in the National Green Tribunal now. You said that the environmental issues are not being taken care of.
I was
Really?
just wondering why you would not be commenting on that. I just
Yes.
noted
Because
that.
see, I am coming across a lot of cases where violation of environmental conditions by these power generation people, especially in respect of the disposal of the fly ash. That is one of the area where it requires a lot of pollution control mechanism, which that is not being followed, though there are policies which says that how it can be used. Because even the government were not implementing that their own policy of utilization of the fly ash that has been generated by the generating companies, because they can use it for this concrete blocks, etc., and the government buildings, the government contractors will have to go for at least 50% of the brick that is being used for this purpose by this method has to be used. But I do not know, that process is not being implemented, thereby they are not able to even sell, even they are even then prepared to give it for free of cost, that people are not interested in coming up. That is also their one. And also regarding the discharge of this what do you call the effluents into the marine, a lot of difficulties are also happening on account of those things. But if you put more stringent what do you call the environmental impact assessment aspects, then probably the generation cost may go up. That may tell upon the consumer. But will it not be necessary? According to me, we are only talking about the generation, and if I follow your thing, that from the responsibility of the state government to provide certain things is being shifting to the private sector, and providing a lot of what do you call the liberalized way of even foregoing environmental norms for the purpose of protecting those people. Will it be go in a right way if you take the larger interest of the people providing good environment as a right of life provided under section article 21(1). Secondly, as regards the wind and other alternate thing also, because for the first time in Tamil Nadu, the atomic power generation come in Kodikulam. We don't know, you said that in foreign countries they are closed because of the environmental issues. But now we do not know whether we are going to face the same issue here. After disaster, we are going to close that also. We do not know, because these are all the consequences which the other countries have forgone or forbidden as being introduced as an experiment in India. It became an experimental area where this is being happening. So these are all the issues. I think when it appears that the concern of power generation is always there, and the cost oriented aspect is also that when you go for hydro projects, environmentalists will come and say that no, don't touch water, don't touch the river, everything will come, so they cannot go for power. So when you go for alternate, also certain things will come. And we are thinking about the solar. Solar also in the long run, I do not know, because after some time, the instruments, that is panels, etc., that is being used, we do not know how you are going to dispose of, because after some time it will loses its capacity to generate. Then you will have to renew it. When you are renewing it, you will have to replace the panels. Those panels also are of high, I think that environmentally it is having some impact. I do not know how you are going to solve those issues also. These are all the simultaneous issues that arise when we go for the alternate system of the electricity generation, etc. These are all the areas where a lot of study will have to be done. You said that about 23 to 24% loss. Is there any study conducted by the authorities as to how this can be regulated and can be reduced? Whether they succeeded in it, because they are going for the number of substations are being, instead of longer the area of distribution and storage, they are going for small substations for the purpose of collecting it, and then they are distributing it. Whether that will be sufficient for that purpose. These are all the areas where a lot of scientific and holistic studies will have to be done. And I think this is a larger area where you said that the litigation area is always open up. And as you are appearing for, probably I think that I said the way in which you have put, probably you are appearing for the generators, protecting the interests of the generators. I am talking on the aspect of the environmental issue, as to how far the private investment of these things is likely to help the protection of environment. These are all the issues where a general thing will not be discussed, and then it will be solved. I don't say that you are not expecting, because as Ramkumar has said, the private distribution system is going. I think in Munnar, the Tata is doing it, because the entire power supply for Munnar town is being done by Tata Tea. And also in Trichur, it appears that the municipality is controlling it, because they are the licensees for the purpose of distribution to the consumers, and they are maintaining it. So some method by which it can be done, and also some, if that is done in a holistic manner and in a scientific manner, probably most of the issues that has been raised by you as a concern for the bringing up this industry can also be solved, it appears. Thank you very much. It is a real, you have put the concern of the hurdles that is being faced for coming up with the power generation in a lighter way, but with a holistic way of making the others to think about it. Thank you very much.
Ramashan sir, in fact, like what Ram sir said, it is just the beginning. It is the beginning. We are just initiating the discussion on power sector.
No, anyhow, he will be, he will be more free after August.
Don't think so. Don't think so.
No, his tongue will not be so light sometimes.
Sir, we move on to Justice Rajendran sir, please, sir.
Good evening to all of you. It's all a pleasure to join you. Sorry, I was late because another meeting is the international conference on the arbitration, which I participated. And it's always a pleasure to hear you all, especially my friends. I said I should join the meeting, and you are doing a wonderful job of doing during the every day. I was quite a and the subject chosen by you every day remarkable. I really wonder how to select the topics. That's more important, and select the right person as Chella and everyone. Please, everyone is enjoying this. Everyone is encouraged in this, and we are learning it. Of course, including me, every one of us, we do learn when we come across these things. Thank you. And as usual, Chella, you did very well.
Rajendran, this price words will not be sufficient. You must be made available for the platform. Because I am talking to Sam. Since I am in Chennai, I will try to contact all those people, those to whom I can give force for this thing.
Definitely, sir.
You give a date, no problem. It's
Okay,
an open.
good.
Any Saturday and Sunday is yours, sir. I mean,
After all, I come from Alleppey.
I see.
Some interest in Alleppey.
So having roots in Kerala.
No, his wife controlling factories
Okay.
from Alleppey.
Okay, battery is from Alleppey.
sir, we have KVJ Rao, sir. Okay, sir, over to you.
Sir, it's a very interesting subject. I mean, technology development, you mentioned Enron, we've been facing that when it was in Maharashtra. So, but the single factor remains that this is the only sector, the more you consume, the more you pay. In the other sectors, the more you consume, you get a discount.
Yes, sir.
And this is the only area where the more you consume, and today you can see like the Adanis and the Ambanis. I hope I'm not called up for defamation, but see, today there is no problem in the private industry coming in, but monopolizing it to such an extent that it becomes, arbitrary in everything that they do. That is where the problem lies, sir, basically. See, monopolization, like the Tatas, like you mentioned the Tatas have been social from day one. It is not a news area for them, because Tata, as you all are aware, is run by trust. So the trust is that to do a lot of social service. But sir, you also have to look at this factor that monopolization should not take place. Especially Kodandaram, sir, you'll be fighting for them after your retirement. So I have to be very, very careful. I have to measure my words before I say anything.
No, sir. I'll clarify on that. Actually, there is a misconception. See, we forget the distinction between the generator and distributor and supplier. Here, so far as the generator is concerned, it is a fixed cost. It is the distributor who is loading you. The distributor is the state agencies. They are the ones who are going before the Electricity Regulatory Commission. They purchase at a fixed cost. In fact, the cost of procurement, for your information, with respect to most of the generators are concerned, is only a fixed cost of 3 rupees or 3 rupees 20 paise. In fact, in state of Andhra Pradesh, I know one of the plants supplies at 1 rupee 60 paise.
Okay.
It is the distribution companies, which are the state agencies, who have the distribution right. They are the ones who are charging you more for the units which you consume more, not the generators. This
like
is
all middlemen.
Unfortunately.
Like all middlemen.
No, it's not that. See, people, the common man really thinks, because we get carried away by what is being written in the newspapers, saying that either Adani or Reliance or XYZ and all. In fact, even Tatas, they have two wings. One is distribution wing is different from the generation wing. Generation wing, both Tatas, Adanis and one more company, they are losing heavily on account of they themselves have bound themselves in a contract depending on the Indonesian coal at a given point of time under a scheme called mega power plants of 4,000 megawatts each. Unfortunately, what happened is in the Indonesian government suddenly increased 1 rupee to 10 rupees like that. Their taxation system has varied. With the result, they had no other go other than to pay that money and buy that coal. And when they challenged it in the Regulatory Commission, it was given in their favor. Appellate Commission gave them in their favor. Supreme Court reversed it, saying that you bound yourself, so you better supply at this thing. With the result, what happened is, now they have these plants are required to run for 30 years. Whether continuously incurring losses, will they be able to carry out? They will not be able to carry out. What they will do is, they will say, all right, we are winding up of the company. But ultimate loser is who?
The consumer.
Consumer.
No, I think that in Andhra Pradesh, 2 companies gave up their power plant project, it appears.
Yeah, they gave it.
micro or something like that.
No, there are 4 plants to my knowledge in Andhra Pradesh who said we don't want to generate. They surrendered. They are lying idle for the last 4 years. It is not the generating companies. This is a misconception. People that's because they do not the 3 concepts: generation, distribution, and supply.
I think that there is now policy has changed by the government also. I think the Coal India Limited has come with some because their coals are not being sold because of the high environmental issues. It
No,
appears.
sir. The Coal India problem is with regard to the ash content is more. Our coal is
and
not
also
superior quality.
sulfur content is also more.
Yeah.
That is why they've gone to Australia to bring it now, and they're having problems in Australia.
Actually, with regard to the environmental issue which has been raised by Ramakrishnan sir, see, that is the major issue. Here, so far as if you look at all the old generating stations, which were based on the old technology at that point of time available, they are all state-run. So far as the new generating stations are concerned, coal-based and the other one, fly ash is concerned, I had seen, because I had occasion to see, though the Government of India policy says it should be given free, what happens is at the level of the plant, the institutions create so many hurdles for someone who wants to take it and utilize it. That cost gets added up. Take for instance, you take just example of Kerala. In Kerala, within the factory or outside the factory, there may not be any government levies. How many levies they have to pay before a lorry goes out of the plant? That adds up to the cost. Then it becomes unviable, even if you are getting a free.
Yeah, the labor laws are such in Kerala, you have a problem.
No, not only in Kerala. I'm not on I just give an example of Kerala.
Yeah.
In one place, see, in Kerala, it is the labor laws or labor unions. In another place, there is a politician. In another place, somebody else in the plant sitting, the GM or MD or whoever it is. But the net result is the entrepreneur who wants to make fly ash bricks, he had to struggle so much for first making and then convincing the public that they are really good. In fact, the cement which we all buy, you know that there is a mandatory requirement of mixing fly ash up to 25% in the cement which you are being sold.
Yes.
There is a mandatory requirement under Government of India's this one. In the fly ash it is mixed.
Fakar in Garvidi was doing that at one point.
Exactly. No, not only that. In fact, it's mandatory for them to do that. Nuclear is concerned, very interesting thing which has been flagged by Justice Ramakrishnan sir. See, by 2030, India is expected to reach 63 gigawatts of nuclear power.
Wow.
Why their European plants are being closed is not because of this thing. 2 reasons. Their requirement is small. Second thing is their plants are very old plants. Whereas entire of US, they depend more on nuclear power than any other power. And interestingly, nuclear power is supposed to be the most safest.
And what about Japan?
It's an accident.
Earthquake.
See, it is an accident. Accident is different. That's nobody's act of God.
Now, right now in Kerala, we have a scheme. Formerly, the board did not encourage captive power. Now they are encouraging solar power. And formerly, we used to store the solar power in batteries, etc. Now, another system is you can directly tap solar power and then monthly power bills.
So this is a Government of India scheme. In fact, I am yesterday only I paid because after retirement, government will not pay my power bill. No. So I said I gave 2 lakhs to advance to the installation of solar power in my house. I am getting wise now.
So my cousins in Madras are the pioneers in solar powers. The Uppluri Krishna Mohan, they are from Rajaji Nagar. He's got the President of India's award also for it. And we are trying to get that done in Pattisima, try to make, convert solar energy for the temple that we are building. Our temple that is there, we are trying to get it from there.
Oh,
The
we are
Cochin
working
airport, the Nedumbasheri airport has got the.
CIL is completely self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient, yes. Solar energy, yes.
But then there is the problem which Mr. Ramushan mentioned. After the panels have become useless, where will you dump it?
Dispose, yeah.
no, sir.
Disposal.
So far as that is concerned, if you look at the overall, not only this panel, there is all electronic.
Done e-waste.
Just like your
Yeah.
computer,
E-waste.
Sir,
E-waste,
that is
yeah.
known as e-waste. E-waste.
E-waste,
e-waste, computers, etc. In fact, in the world, Germany is one country which imports all kinds of e-waste. Then they
Recycle.
reprocess it, and they extract. There's a lot of very valuable metals available in all these instruments. So they have the technology, and they reprocess it, and then they utilize it, and they reuse it. Unfortunately, in India, as I said, there are laws. There is a
No,
laxity in implementation.
No,
Laxity in implementation.
e-waste management rules provides for that. Recycling
No, sir,
of
everything
e-waste.
is, see, we are
Everything is
very
here.
quick and adapt. That's why I started off with saying we are quick in making laws, we are quick in making rules. Thereafter, implementation
No.
is not there. That is, it has to come from the citizen level, not from the enforcement. Or enforcement, it has to be so strict that no mercy. Unfortunately, the law enforcers are whoever are the people who are to enforce, they succumb to small things and then they let go. Society has to evolve. You remember last time we talked about perjury. There's a time that we said in India, there's no value for the truth that it looks like.
In Maharashtra, Bombay, it's a rule now. Every building has to have solar panels for your hot water in the morning, and it is mandatory by law.
Mandatory by law.
Yeah.
Now, all big projects have been mandated. Government of India mandated that's something called green building concept. While giving permission itself,
Yes.
a particular size of apartments or a particular size of buildings,
Yes.
automatically in the building permission itself, it has to be
Incorporated.
Incorporated. This is under national policy.
Even in the northeast, I think, because they are depending on the
George?
solar energy and everything.
Hydel.
Wherever it is available, wherever it is available,
Yeah.
biomass, everything they are trying for.
Idle and biomass.
Right, sir.
Anyway, sir, thank you very much for all of you.
Sir,
thank you.
Let us get the final shock from Vijay. Over to you, Vijay.
Sir,
Dr.
thank you.
Vijay Kumar wants to ask something.
Vijay Kumar.
Ram Kumar, sir.
No, Dr. Vijay Kumar.
Vijay Kumar, sir. Yeah, of course. Why not? Sir, please go ahead.
I would like to put 2-3 questions. We are facing lot of NCLD applications before that particular forum from power generators or JP Power, R Power, GVK. GVK is having special mention because it was having the rescue portion of 16% over and above their expenses. And why all these? I mean, there are ever so many other power generators and power distributors who are coming under the way. Why they are failing? Is it not require a nationwide thinking or pondering over how we have to reorganize or reformulate our power sector so as to provide them proper and efficient running of that. This is having a lot of ramification with regard to the financial sector and also the power sector and also the common man. That is why I am asking, is it not a time for us to rethink on whether this law formulation is to be confined within the local limit, parochial limit of some persons. Is it not proper to discuss widely with other stakeholders? Thank you very much for excellent, brilliant brainstorming classes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Of course, Vijay Kumar sir has put a very pertinent question in the sense like it requires a nationwide rethinking and a relook. There is absolutely no doubt regarding that. Vijay.
Sir, thank you, Shyam, for eventually getting Justice Kodandaram onto the platform.
You don't know the way I had my AK-47, everything ready. Then that's how I got it.
So as the sir told, it's only a teaser what he has spoken today. And I know him before his elevation. I didn't know the nickname as Current Kodandaram, but he was very popular in the power sector, and people used to seek his services in many of those cases. And what we have understood today is only the various, the periphery of the Electricity Act, its origin, and where it stands today. And as Sir said, he would like to take a class on the specified later enactments. It will be a lot more interesting because he is an absolute authority on all these power sector laws. And we have been lucky enough to hear him on that particular subject today. Sir, but I have one doubt. Though there is this, of course, in a concluding remark, I am not supposed to put any question.
No, you can.
But I had one
As,
doubt.
such privilege has been given to the concluder to say his views also on that, so he can be allowed to answer it.
No, I had one doubt. See, the free power concept, your Lordship has pointed out with regard to London Borough's case, and that other part is that the higher tariff to industries and the lower tariff to consumers, agriculturists, and less consumption customers. See, my doubt is if you were to decrease the production cost, is it not going to impact in a way that it is going to increase the agricultural costs? Where is it that, how do we find this balance? Of course, it's more to do with economy. Because if you were to give incentive to one sector, obviously the other sector price has to increase.
No, that's where I say
cross-subsidization, is it not?
No, that's exactly the issue. I agree. Question is, who is the one who has to do that cross-subsidization? Is it the state or is it the board? Board or the distributor is only one small part who has been entrusted with a specific purpose. Like I gave you an example, between 1983 to 1993, each year the electricity board lost about 600 to 700 crores. In the budget of the electricity board, if they have to lose, they are not able to perform their functions. Whereas state could have taken that burden. 600 crores in a state budget is very small. Whereas in electricity board's budget, 600 crores is enormous. That is that they collapse. That's the difference. Who has to do the cross subsidization? That's why the Electricity Act 2003 provides that if the state wants to give, see, subsidy is not being announced by the board. Subsidy is being announced by the CM or PM or whoever it is, the political party or the government. So the burden has to be taken by the government, not by the board. That is the clarity which you require to have. Then the state will be able to, how does the state meet the subsidy cost? By way of general taxation. Not by taxing one segment or other. Now you see that the cascading effect of increasing the cost of all other commodities because it has to be passed on. And many times the industry itself gets collapsed. What is happening in the Indian manufacturing sector is only that today. Our cost of input, our cost of labor, our cost of the manufacturing ultimately is so high. In the world today, you are integrated world, both under GATT and WTO, and also the TRIPS agreements, in which in the international agreements, you have no other choice other than to permit the other countries to send the goods, and vice versa. If you are capable, you go and sell in their countries. But your product is not so cheap for you to go and sell there, because your costs are not coming down for these reasons. See, we are in the economists or the leaders, they are in a confused state of thing. They look in each state, they look for their own this one, and unfortunately, public are not so literate to understand these kind of complex issues. It remains only in debates among the elite or the few of the people to understand this thing. But in the end, ultimately, it doesn't get percolated to the common man. He only sees, yes, this CM has given me free power, or this party has given me free this thing, these people have given me this, so I go and vote. It's a 5 years game plan. The larger issues today, see, as I said, as I was, you know that my father was a 30 years MLA and minister. Why was that particular point of time the leaders did not think of? Because they were maintaining that fiscal discipline of not wanting to go and borrow and manage their affairs within the money available. Today, you take any state, they owe so much to banks, they owe so much everywhere, they are spending in advance. See, municipal, municipal bonds and all.
World Bank is financing for everything.
No, somebody said can you believe that the state governments, before with the RBI, you go and see, look into the economic, this one, the borrowings of who are the lenders? Lenders are Muthoot Finance and so many other companies. They buy the bond. No, see, theirs is a business. It's a business. Not only just Muthoot, I mentioned it, nothing to this one. The big organized finance companies, they take deposits from you and me. They lend it to the state because that is a secure government bonds. And each government is selling 2030 bonds, 2035 bonds with assured return of 8% and 11%. Other day I was looking into for buying bonds. Meghalaya government is offering at 11.4% bonds per annum, repayable in 2030, year on year, and it is a quarterly payment. Your FDR, you are getting only 5%. The secured bonds of Power Finance Corporation at 6.5% to 7%. The respective, the state of Andhra Pradesh, they went and borrowed for the purpose of Amaravati at 11% interest. So that means they are spending in advance the future earnings.
Yes.
The lack of fiscal discipline or whatever you call it is there. That's why central government has brought out another act, FRMB Act. Unfortunately, that is also being followed in breach. That's where the federal structure thing. I have nothing, as Ramakrishnan sir has said, I'm arguing for generators. No. Incidentally, at that point of time.
No, in a lighter sense, I said.
No. Sir, ultimately, I'm a butcher. Whoever pays me money, I argue for them.
That is a lawyer.
No, you're not changed your lawyer attitude so far.
Very candid, very candid.
Yes, sir. Vijay.
Thank you, sir. We'll be looking forward for another lecture from you on this particular subject.
The legal aspects.
Only on the
Let us have a power pack session in the near future.
sequel. Bahubali, the conclusion.
Bahubali. Sir, as we come to the end of the 172nd session, we are deeply indebted, and I don't know, till this far, how Kodaram sir escaped from addressing us, but today we got him. And this is just the beginning. Thank you very much, and we are indebted to Justice Somayajulu sir, who was here, and Justice Ramkumar sir, Justice Ramakrishnan sir, Justice Rajendran sir, and all of you wonderful participants for being part and parcel of this journey. And tomorrow, as we enter our 173rd session, we have Justice Manmohan Singh. He is the Chairman, Intellectual Property Appellate Board, and the former Judge of High Court of Delhi. We'll be deliberating on the topic discussion on fundamentals of IPR law and landmark judgments with the Supreme Court. So, Kodaram sir, it's been a wonderful experience, and I think this is the beginning of more sessions to come.
Thank you, thank you. If you have the patience to bear me, I can't help.
Absolutely. I like Vijay said.
We have the
we
yearning.
patience. It's
Not only
just the
patience,
sir.
yearning,
The
yearning.
power sector, we are not, we have been not introduced to this sector at all. Let us get ourselves.
Even I am also asking Syam, instead of going for our old laws, where we are always chewing the same thing, go for new things which most of us, even ourselves, are not aware of.
New horizons.
Let us
explore.
in search of new grazing grounds, sir. In search of new grazing grounds. Yeah,
New
right.
pastures.
No pastures. Yeah, of course, sir. So till we meet again tomorrow, please do take care and stay safe.